Imagine waking up 20,000 years ago with a serious injury. There is no hospital waiting for you, no doctor, no pharmacy, no bottle of antibiotics. And if your wound becomes infected, modern medicine isn't coming to save you. Yet somehow humans survived for thousands of generations. So what did they actually do when something went wrong? Did they simply hope for the best? Not exactly, because ancient humans had something we often underestimate: knowledge. Not modern medical knowledge, but practical knowledge built from generations of observation, experience, and survival. And sometimes they did things that sound surprisingly modern. First, let's destroy one popular image. Ancient humans were not simply wandering around with absolutely no idea what to do when someone got hurt. They lived in groups, they hunted together, they prepared food, they made tools, and most importantly, they depended on one another. If one person was injured, leaving them behind could mean losing an important member of the group. So helping the injured wasn't necessarily an act of kindness alone. It could also be essential for the survival of the entire group. Think about it. If you are hunting large animals, making shelters, carrying food, and protecting children, losing one experienced adult can matter. So ancient humans had a powerful reason to learn how to care for each other. Now imagine cutting your hand while making a stone tool. Today you might wash it, disinfect it, cover it, and move on. For prehistoric humans, infection was a serious danger. They didn't know about bacteria, they didn't have microscopes, they didn't understand germs the way we do, but they could still observe something. A wound could become swollen, it could produce unpleasant fluid, a person could become extremely sick, and sometimes they recovered. Other times, they didn't. Over generations, people could learn through experience that certain actions seemed to help. Clean water, keeping a wound covered, removing damaged material, using particular materials against injuries. We cannot reconstruct every prehistoric treatment with certainty, but the basic principle is important. You don't need to understand bacteria to notice that some things make wounds worse and others make them better. And then there were plants. Ancient humans had an enormous laboratory surrounding them. It was called nature. They observed which plants were edible, which caused problems, which could be stored, which could be crushed, which could be used as materials. But here's where we need to be careful. Finding plant remains in an ancient person's teeth does not automatically mean they were using those plants as medicine. For example, researchers have found evidence that Neanderthals consumed different plant foods, including grasses, legumes, roots, and tubers. That proves plant knowledge. It doesn't prove every plant was a prehistoric painkiller. Still, humans living close to nature had opportunities to discover useful properties of plants through observation and repeated experience. And eventually, some cultures developed extensive traditions of herbal medicine. But prehistoric medicine wasn't just about plants. Sometimes, it was much more direct. In 2026, researchers reported an extraordinary discovery. A Neanderthal molar from Chigirskaya Cave in Siberia is around 59,000 years old. The tooth contained cavities and unusual marks. Researchers interpreted the marks as evidence that someone deliberately worked on the tooth, possibly using a stone tool to drill or scrape into it. Think about that. A Neanderthal had a painful tooth. Someone apparently tried to do something about it. No dental chair, no anesthetic, no electric drill, just a stone tool, and an incredibly uncomfortable procedure. Researchers even experimented with stone tools themselves to investigate how such damage could have been produced. And here's the fascinating part. The tooth appears to have remained functional afterward. That suggests the individual survived and continued using it. So the idea that prehistoric humans simply ignored medical problems becomes much harder to defend. But what about broken bones? This is where archaeology becomes even more interesting. Bones can record history. If someone breaks a bone and survives long enough, the body begins repairing it. New bone forms. The fracture changes. And thousands of years later, archaeologists can sometimes see evidence of healing. That means the person didn't simply die immediately. Someone survived the injury. And in some situations, that survival probably required help. Imagine a hunter with a badly injured leg. He can't walk. He can't hunt. He can't easily find food. If nobody helps him, he may not survive. But if other people bring food, protect him, keep him warm, and help him move, his chances improve. This is one of the most important parts of prehistoric medicine. Care itself was medicine. Now let's go even further. Some prehistoric humans actually underwent surgery. One of the most famous examples is called trepanation. The basic idea? A hole was deliberately made in the skull. Yes, you heard that correctly. Someone used a tool to remove part of a person's skull. Trepanation is documented in prehistoric archaeological remains, including Neolithic skulls. Some skulls show signs of healing, meaning some patients survived the procedure. And this wasn't limited to one tiny region. Evidence of trepanation has been found across different parts of the ancient world. But here's the mystery. Why? Researchers believe the reasons varied. Some cases appear connected with injuries. Others may have had ritual or other purposes. And because we can't interview the people who performed these procedures, we cannot know the exact reason in every case. Still, the existence of healed skulls tells us something remarkable. Someone was willing to perform an extremely risky procedure, and someone survived it. So were ancient humans better at medicine than we think? Not exactly. Modern medicine is incomparably more powerful in many areas. We understand bacteria, we have antibiotics, vaccines, anesthesia, imaging, blood transfusions, surgical techniques, emergency medicine. So ancient humans were not secretly running prehistoric hospitals. Their medicine had enormous limitations. A simple infection that we can treat today could once become fatal. A serious injury could end a person's life. Childbirth could be dangerous, and many diseases had no effective treatment. So why did humans survive? Because survival wasn't based on one magical medicine. It was a combination of things. Humans survived because we are unusually good at learning, cooperating, and adapting. Imagine generations of people watching the same problems. Someone gets injured. Someone discovers a useful technique. Another person remembers it. Someone improves it. The knowledge is passed to the next generation. Then someone else improves it again. That's how knowledge accumulates. A single human might know very little, but a community can remember thousands of tiny lessons: which plants are safe, which foods provide energy, how to make fire, how to make tools, how to protect a wound, how to build shelter, how to care for an injured person, how to survive winter, and eventually those small pieces of knowledge become culture. So here's the biggest misconception. Ancient humans didn't survive because they were somehow immune to disease. They weren't. They survived because humans became extremely good at working around our weaknesses. We couldn't run forever, so we made tools. We couldn't survive extreme cold naturally, so we made clothing and shelter. We couldn't heal every injury, so we cared for injured people. We didn't understand germs, so we still learned through experience. And when nature gave us problems, we learned to fight those problems with knowledge. That is the beginning of medicine. Not a hospital, not a laboratory, not a pharmaceutical company, but one human looking at another injured human and thinking, there has to be something we can do. Thousands of years later, that same instinct is still with us. The tools changed, the knowledge exploded, and medicine became one of humanity's greatest achievements. But the basic idea is incredibly old. Observe, learn, remember, help, improve, pass it on. And perhaps that is one of the biggest reasons humans are still here. Not because we were the strongest animals, but because we learned how to help each other survive. If you enjoyed this journey into the hidden side of human history, subscribe to PastPulseWorld, because the past is full of things we thought we already understood until we look closer.